Hey everybody, Rob here. It's time for a brand new ProRevenge story and a story from the ProRevenge archives. First one, Karen doesn't learn her lesson and her husband makes it so much worse. Let's jump right in. Hey, did you know 52% of you aren't actually subscribed to the channel? Please hit that subscribe button for more daily Reddit stories. I told the first part of this story a couple weeks ago on the malicious compliance sub, but it's grown into something much larger since then. Starting with a quick summary of the original incident, I deliver parcels for a company in Australia. One day, I knocked on a Karen's door and she freaked out and verbally abused me for scaring her with my knock, demanding I never do it again. Thanks to a friendly neighbor reporting the abuse to the local branch of my company, it was decided that to prevent Karen from being upset over our knocking, we were to never knock again, and instead leave cards for all her future deliveries instructing her to collect the deliveries from the depot, end malicious compliance. I thought this would be the end of it. Unfortunately, Karen came into the depot a few days later in tears, crying about how unfair it was that her parcels wouldn't be delivered anymore. Through all her pleading, she never once apologized for her original outburst. Despite this, my boss contacted our corporate team to get advice on the situation, and it was decided to reinstate Karen's deliveries with the condition that if she ever had even the slightest outburst to our delivery staff again, she would go straight back to collecting parcels from the depot. My boss decided that for the first couple of weeks of this new agreement, that she would do my route for me, leaving me to man the depot. This was meant to prevent me from having to deal with Karen until she calmed down a bit. I didn't mind too much since I got paid more for it and there wasn't much work that needed to be done there. I guess my boss must have forgotten why we switched positions though, since on her very first day, she carded a parcel for Karen. The reason was valid. Karen didn't answer the door and it was a very large parcel. Its size made it unable to be hidden from any passerby's view, something required at my company. This meant Karen had to come into the depot where I was, and she didn't come alone. Enter Karen's husband, a 6'5" monster of a man who quickly put Karen's anger to shame. The two double-teamed me and accused me of having refused to leave their parcel just to get back at them, even though my boss had done the route that day. I made a report on the incident and they denied it. Without anyone to back up my story, there was nothing I could do. The idiots at corporate sided with Karen and her husband and decided I was just trying to get them banned again out of spite. This gave me a great idea, but I could never have guessed how well it would work. I had been delivering Karen's parcels for over a year, and I knew one day she was never home. I bought a $50 body cam from a local store and then sent a parcel of my own to Karen's house on that one special day. I paid extra to make photo ID required for delivery and waited for my boss to card it again. Sure enough, Karen wasn't home and the parcel couldn't be left without photo ID verification. Later that day, Team Karen came marching into the depot once more. This time, Karen took more of a backseat to her husband, who I swear was seconds away from punching my lights out before he saw my camera. They quickly stormed off and called corporate demanding that I get fired. For what reason, I don't know. It was a pretty scary experience and I probably wouldn't do it again. Corporate phoned soon after and asked what happened. I simply emailed them my video and let them see the kind of people these were. Apparently, Team Karen forgot that I recorded the event because they were not prepared when a man from corporate came down to confront them about their behavior. Corporate guy also came with a document that, if signed, would allow us to leave all of their parcels regardless of signature or safety. They would then assume all responsibility for loss or damage. Karen's husband took such offense to this that he actually grabbed and threw the corporate guy down to the ground and demanded he get off the property. The genius assaulted the closest thing he had to an ally in the entire company. I wish I could have seen the look on Karen's husband's face when the police came to ask him some questions. Best part is, the friendly neighbor from the first run-in with Karen caught the whole thing on his security camera and gave it to the cops. Now Karen's husband is facing possible jail time for assault, and Karen is going to have to drive a full hour to the corporate office whenever she wants to collect any deliveries. We have been instructed to never set foot on their property for any reason. They have been banned from ever entering our depot, and corporate is helping me to apply for a restraining order against them both. All of this over a couple of parcels. In the comments for this story, it was stated that the boss is awesome because she took over the route and went out to see Karen's place for herself. But I can't help but think that the boss could have done more when corporate was really coming down on OP. On to our next story. My parents shamed me in front of my close friends and family, so I shamed them publicly. Let's jump right in. A bit of a backstory: I was raised in a traditional religious household, and my beliefs didn't quite coincide with those of my parents. In fact, I didn't believe in God at all. I made the mistake of expressing my beliefs to my parents before I was out of the house, so they were constantly looking for ways to get me right with the Lord. This revenge story revolves around one of those attempts. I know this post also shows a more negative side of religion, but I'm not trying to bash anyone's beliefs. I'm just giving my personal experience with some religious people. When I came out as gay to my parents, they were less than understanding, as my mother sobbed about how her son was going to burn in hell, and my father yelled at me for being so stupid. I realized I probably could have held off on telling them, but the damage was done. My relationship was never quite the same with them after that. Soon after my revelation, my mom took me to see a local pastor to clear my head and basically convince me to just be straight, which was clearly not going to happen. My father wouldn't be caught dead with me on this trip, however, because he was the mayor of our small town, and if word got out about his wayward son's feelings towards men, then his pride would be forever hurt and his public image ruined. That was more than a bit of sarcasm, but I'm not quite sure how that came out through writing. After sitting through my pastor's awkward response to why I should change my sexuality, I went with my mom back home. When we arrived at home, I was greeted by a living room full of my closest friends and family members with somber, pitying looks. Apparently, my mother had taken it upon herself to organize an intervention to instill religious ideals into me. When she sat me down and spoke to me in slow, careful words about how everyone here cared about me and was here to help me with my little problem, I was beyond mortified. I sat and listened as those I cared most about in the world shit out Christian cliches and Bible verses telling me I would face God's wrath. When I finally was released to my room, I could barely contain my embarrassment and anger at my parents for humiliating me like that and refusing to accept me. I later figured out that my dad was pretty upset with my mom for telling people about my sexuality, but he eventually came to terms with it since all of them swore up and down to tell no one. However, I knew he was really angry that his beautiful reputation might be ruined, not that I was emotionally shit on. After this, my relationship never quite mended with my parents, but luckily I was already a senior and ready to go to college. I got accepted to a university pretty close to my hometown that was quite accepting and actually up to date with modern thinking, so that was good. I joined the college's campus pride club and became pretty involved in pride walks and events, and an opportunity presented itself to me that was too good to pass up. A pride rally was being held at my local town that I could attend, so I knew what had to be done. Now, just because I'm gay doesn't mean I'm dressed in rainbows and tiaras all the time, but that's not what my parents thought. The stigma associated with being gay in my town was so exaggerated and homophobic that it was almost laughable. So I dressed up in the goofiest, shortest, rainbowiest clothes that I could find to really drive the point home. I got as many of my campus pride friends to join in the local rally as well, so the turnout was a bit bigger than expected for the event. When I finally got there, I walked all up and down the main streets, down my own block, and even past my dad's place of business and town hall. Since my hometown is pretty small, most people know each other, so I got plenty of scandalized looks and petty little gasps from people I had met. But the cherry on top came when the local news station came to report on the event. Now, the reporters were technically interviewing random people, but I was more than a bit pushy in getting my own interview. I got to wave my flag, say my statements, and basically flaunt my sexuality on what would later become a brief report on the local news. I bet my dad enjoyed seeing that broadcast all over town while sipping his morning coffee. As if this wasn't sweet enough, I actually saw my dad a couple times during the rally. Since much of the rally was centered around town hall, it was fitting for the mayor to at least make an appearance, and he got a nice good look at me. The look of disgust and almost fear at what was being done to his precious reputation is one that I will cherish forever. After I was done doing my damage, I headed on back to my college. Turns out that my dad didn't get elected to office again that year, and even issued a half-hearted apology for his son's actions. Maybe next time he opens a Bible, he should read the chapters on love and forgiveness. Lord knows he needs it. I was going to do my normal wrap-up on this one, but I got caught up in reading through all the comments below it, and oh my gosh, it's a shit show between old views and new views. I want to thank both OPs for posting their stories to the ProRevenge subreddit. You can visit them at the links in the description below. Please go there and give them an upvote. Once again, this is Rob from Karma Comment Chameleon saying thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and share it with your friends. And we'll see you in the next one.